We ready? All right. We're going to call to order the workshop of the Effingham County Board of Commission. This work session, September 19, 2023 at 4 o'clock. Don't see a roll call, but I'll note that everyone is here except Mr. Kiefer, who is out with his family with the loss of his mother. Keep him in our prayers. With that, we'll go right into the work session and then we'll see what else we have. We'll start with our buffers and turn to our development services to lead us in that discussion.
Change it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Steve Candler, Director of Development Services. You have a handout that has one line of yellow and some red in front of you. This is the 3.4 buffers. So in response to what we talked about at the retreat and the planning board's input as well, I want to show you the differences in what we have now and what's been added. So on the first page, number 8, it says maximum. We changed that to minimum. We talked about that at the retreat, if you remember that. And then on B1, we talk about the reduction if you do a 25-foot high berm. And then we added 35 feet, which would be natural undisturbed. And that total needs to be 185, not 150. Thank you, Commissioner George. So you see that needs to be 185. That's 35 plus the 150. Okay.
So the height is 25,
Yeah,
would be 180 foot. The next 185 would be the next number.
exactly.
Now, why are we doing the?
That was 108. It's 150 foot wide berm.
Oh,
But
okay.
if you reduce it and you add the 35 plus that 150 wide buffer, 150 foot buffer, the total is going to be that 35 plus that 150 to be 185.
See, the math didn't add up because it was 150-foot wide berm and the total buffer was 150.
Right.
And then it has the 35-foot undisturbed.
So you would say there would be a 150 foot wide buffer, it should be 185.
I got you. Okay, right there. Okay.
That would be natural and undisturbed, so that'd make.
Yeah, so we added that, we talked about that at retreat,
Yeah.
had that undisturbed.
Okay.
And so we did that. And then you have 3 options of berms as far as the reduction of the buffer. And this is all in an industrial area because you got the 300-foot buffer. So you got 25 foot, 16 foot, and 10 foot.
Now it's the 35 feet natural undisturbed buffer. Does that go with 2 and 3 or that's just for 1?
It is for 1,
Okay.
but I'll do whatever you tell me.
No,
Yeah,
I mean, that's,
Because naturally you would have
You'd have
more
more
than,
space.
you would
Yeah, you
have
would have
more
anyway.
than that undisturbed than the 35 feet.
Yeah,
For
maybe
the
we
other
should put
two.
something there in there undisturbed for
60
those
yeah.
situations.
we can.
Yeah.
You want to put 35 foot in each one, on 2 and 3?
I would allow 15 like we did here, and then whatever's left be undisturbed, because 15 foot is where they're gonna do their drainage and or anything like that, and whatever's left should be undisturbed.
Okay. So 15 feet for number 2, which would make it 215 feet total buffer, right?
Yeah, 215.
And then the 10-foot high, we would do 15 feet, so it would make it 255-foot wide buffer, right?
Well,
I'm not getting my head around what you
yeah, me
guys are
neither.
doing
I'm
now.
lost.
If you got a
So-
200-foot wide buffer with a 16-foot high berm, it's going to have a 100-foot base.
100-foot berm.
Base, yeah.
200 buffer, that's the 100 minus the 300.
I think
And
it's
then
worse.
We would
throwing
add
this off.
15 to it, so it would be 215.
total.
So like the first one wouldn't be 150 foot wide berm.
Yes, it would.
150 foot total space.
Right,
So the footprint of that would be 100 feet,
correct.
but this says 150 foot wide berm.
No. It is because we're basing this on a 2-to-1 slope, right? So a 25-foot would be, or 3-to-1, I'm sorry, 3-to-1. So a 25-foot would be 75 feet on each side. So that would be 150 feet wide, right? That's why you have to add the additional 35 feet to it, so that the berm isn't taking up 100% of the buffer. So it's 150 feet, 3-to-1 is your width of that berm. And then in addition to that, you're going to have 35 feet undisturbed, which is why rather than 115 feet, it's 150 feet, it's 185.
So-
So your berm is taking up 150 feet of your
Oh,
buffer.
wow. So
But-
that's what's 3-to-1 slope?
That's a 3-to-1. So 75
But
on
if
each
they build
side.
a less, or say a 2-to-1,
Yeah, if that just means more berm.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that just means more buffer.
we need to find that that's more undisturbed
4-to-1, because
or not.
It could be more undisturbed if they did a 2-to-1, which I don't know how they could do it, but if they did.
We already got some on the books that are supposed to be doing that.
Yeah, so that would be,
Real straight up.
it would be.
Well, we've got
straight
some
up.
on the books now. They're trying to do that.
Yeah.
2-to-1.
Right. They're doing it, they're doing it with a, detention wall.
Yeah, certain type of soil or something to be able to do that.
Right.
Some of the.
Yeah, and so they can do that. What that would end up doing is, I think what we're trying to say here is you have to have a minimum, no matter what size your berm is, of 35 feet. So let's say you only wanted to do 150 feet and you're able to get a 25-foot berm at 115 feet. Would you be okay with having 35, 115 gave you your 25, and then it would be, and then your total buffer would be 200 feet, 35 and 100 and.
I was
65.
in my mind, I was modeling off the Exley track.
Yeah,
That's 150-foot complete buffered footprint.
right.
Within that, there's 100 feet of berm, which is 25 foot high.
Within that.
That's what I'm basing it off of, and I think I'm just explaining it wrong. Is
Yeah,
saying,
but it doesn't read it like that.
yeah, and I think we have to change the way
Yeah,
that
the
it
way it's
reads.
worded,
So
it reads backwards. It reads 150 foot wide berm, which is the berm itself, not the buffer. Should be 150 foot wide buffer.
well, I think
Well,
shouldn't it
They
be?
have the buffer without the berm,
Well, I know, but
I know, but.
he's saying undisturbed. When he says buffer, you meant undisturbed.
undisturbed, right?
But let,
Whatever you want to title it.
So-
let me see if I can straighten this out. So I think what we want to accomplish here is, because we're doing it in 3 different sizes, right? Is you want a 25-foot berm, high berm, right? However you get there, we don't care.
True.
Right.
true, Which is good. Stay
Oh,
with me right there just for
yeah.
a second. You got a 25-foot high berm. If it's 100 foot in the case of the Exley track,
Yeah,
just to use it as an example, what's the slope of that one?
100 foot. So which means you'd have to go,
2.5 to 1.
2.5 to 1
Feel
approximately.
it, that's something like 2.1 or something to 1. or
Yeah, it was
2.2.
2.2 or something. We did the
Yeah,
math on.
According to engineers, that's doable. It's 2-to-1 slope. Okay. With 150. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So what I'm saying is, so if you can reduce your buffer to 150 feet, if within that 150 feet, you can fit a 25-foot high berm and 35-foot wide undisturbed,
Disturbed area.
buffer.
Which is fine. I'm good with that. It's
So
just
the
not,
total buffer
it's
is
not worded right.
150 then.
but your total buffer is 150, but you have to get within there, you'd have to get 35-foot undisturbed. Anything above that, you've got to go wider.
right.
Your buffer's going to have to increase. So
I'm good with that. It just needs to be worded.
And you may have,
you see what we're trying to get here, and we could do.
Yeah.
And so in that case, on the other ones, we don't have to. All we have to put in there is that the minimum undisturbed is 35 feet. We don't have to.
Sure.
We
you
don't have
really
to
go into
increase the
everything else.
buffer amount.
And that's what I, put down.
Okay.
If you could reduce, by 150 foot, but reduced by 150 feet if you have a 25-foot high berm with the minimum of 35-foot natural undisturbed buffer.
Right.
Right.
Because of
That's
the, one we- yeah, because
That would be easier. I mean, I'm thinking of,
I
I'll
agree.
try to write
that's
things
what you
like-
want to say.
So the
If-
minimum buffer total is gonna be 150 feet.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, because
That
we're looking at
include
the
the
minimum
berm,
because,
that's
including everything.
That's the smallest
Yeah.
footprint.
Yeah, they're not all gonna be that way, but
Right.
some.
Right. hang on, the idea would be that if they couldn't get the berm that they needed in that 150 foot, 100, whatever, they have to go to their side of the property.
Exactly,
Right,
exactly.
We're just saying that we gotta have a minimum 150 foot buffer.
right.
The
And if you-
35.
If you need, 155, well, it's gotta come from you, not from the 35 foot.
Yeah, but that
what we
35 is
talked
gonna
about.
stay that 35 is from property line to the berm.
Mhm.
It's gonna stay that way. Berm grows, it goes out.
But is it that clear?
It's not.
Well,
Not in the way that it's written here.
Okay.
that's why.
Uh,
This is just- this is a
we-
workshop, so we're not
it's-
voting on this anyway. We're
What
trying-
you all want is clear. We just have to write it that way.
You know, in zoning language, it's really.
Let me add one more nuance, then we need to move on, because I lot to do. If drainage is needed, okay, does that need to be addressed? That it cannot be within 35 foot.
Well,
It has to be
Well,
in the
and I'll tell you
115 that's
where-
left.
I think where it gets tricky there is if in that 35 feet, water is flowing towards the berm and there's a blockage there. You've got to be able to go into that 35 feet to clear the blockage so it can flow to the berm. And let's say you have pipes within the berm that drain it through. Our existing buffer language says that even in undisturbed areas, you are allowed to put what they call utility maintenance and include stormwater.
This is lateral, not perpendicular to the
Yeah,
berm.
lateral.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I just want to make sure the language is there that you can't come in there and say, all right, I need to build a ditch right here, so I gotta take 5 feet of my 35. Is
No.
it-
It
we're
would
not-
have to come, if for the ditch would have to come out of the other.
That's what this is gonna
Because-
say.
Yeah,
Good.
Add 5 more feet to it.
yeah, you'd have to add
I'm
5
good.
feet.
You just want to make sure that
But
drainage is not going to be done in the buffer, except the lateral. I get that.
Yeah.
It could be a lateral need for a pipe or sock drain or something to get it over there. I got you.
But otherwise, so if you could build your berm and you could do that within your 100 foot and you did a good job with it, then you could, if you needed drainage, you could use that 50 extra, you'd have 15 foot of drainage to use.
15
Yeah.
foot of property to build whatever drainage you need.
Whatever you needed to do, and you'd
Okay.
still have your 35 foot undisturbed.
But it doesn't say that right now.
it doesn't, no, and I think we'll clarify that,
Okay.
you know, the existing buffer
Mm.
rules apply.
Okay.
I think that I don't think it has to say it because
I got
you
you.
have to have a minimum of a 35 foot undisturbed buffer.
Yeah, we
The
wouldn't
current
approve
buffer
this.
language does not allow you to do anything laterally.
That's right.
Be perfect.
Anything horizontal.
Particular.
Yeah, horizontal. Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
So when
Okay.
we look at the sketch plan, we would see that on there.
I got you.
So
Yeah.
basically is,
Let's move on.
if I'm a developer and I want to gain 150 foot of property, I can do this.
Yes.
If I want to gain 100 foot of property, I can do version 2.
Right.
If I want to gain
60 foot.
100
60 foot.
Well,
60 foot. Yeah, 200
Wow,
240, 60 foot, you do side 3.
Item 3, you'd gain 60 feet
Right.
If you had the 35.
with a 10 foot high, but we don't want to go any lower than 10.
Yeah.
Because our view is
Yeah,
that you don't have any benefit.
There's no,
right.
Okay.
So you gain 60, you gain 100, or you gain 150. I like that. That's good.
Okay.
okay, so we'll tweak it.
Let's move on.
And then number 4 is just how the height of the berm is measured. We talked about that. And then number 5, we added, so major subdivisions with rear or side facing homes will install a 6-foot tall berm with approved landscape material at the apex of the berm, the top. Minimum width of the berm is 15 feet at the base. So this prevents you from seeing the backside of houses in a subdivision
That'd be great.
On a main road.
on main roads.
Beautiful.
So
Yeah.
it's just a little bit of difference, but it will, the appearance will be a lot better. for the
Especially
folks.
vegetated to be.
Yes,
nice.
exactly. Could be, yep.
Okay.
So you okay with that one, right? So at the retreat, we talked about a few things on the table of buffer areas. One was we put existing zoning at the top. We put proposed zoning down the side so we would know. I think the chair recommended that. And then also I want to let you know that R1 to AR1 is a 30-foot buffer that changed. And then R1 to AR2 is a 30-foot buffer instead of 15. That's a change. Because when you go out there, 15 feet of undisturbed natural buffers, it's just not very much.
Yeah, it's not.
And I think the R1 is a little bit stricter, so that's why we went ahead and recommended that to you. And then R4 to AR1, R4 to AR2, and R4 to R1 is also from 15 to 30. I hope you're good with that. And same with the R6 for all the residential districts. And then also in the mixed use districts, we
We
did.
still have R6. I thought we had,
Well,
No, and
is that because it's grandfathered or something?
yeah, in case somebody's got an R6 zone property that's not
Already.
been,
yeah, we can't take it out.
I got you. Okay.
R5 is really the one that matters there.
Yeah.
And in mixed use, we did 10 more feet. And then also to talk to the commissioners, Burdett's request, we said a privacy fence is used. The material should be approved by Development Services. The fence maximum height is 7 feet, which is what our current building inspections is. And the adjacent buffer may be reduced by 10 feet, i.e. 30 feet to 20 feet for residential required buffers only. So if they want to put a fence in,
Be great.
they can, instead of 15, they'll still be at 20, but now they got a 7-foot fence on top of it.
7-foot fence.
And
the
they're all
gate
gonna
can
be
throw-
privacy fences. They can't put chain link in or nothing like that.
That'd be
So I
great.
hope that helps. And
Yeah, I hope it's enough care to where somebody want to do that to protect.
I think they will. Yeah.
That's a lot of property gain if on a long.
And then the last, on the back page of that one, we said, the constructed berm shall have vegetative cover applied immediately post-construction to assist in the stabilization of the berm. So you can't have just a, 25-foot dirt wall out there. Go ahead and put something on it. And then before the final plat approval of a subdivision or sketch plan, approval of a commercial, industrial, or PD development, we're going to ask for a bond to be submitted and 10% of the amount of construction of the berm. We just want to make sure after you approve it, they're going to have to do something to build it. And that's the only way we use right now to be able to do that, So I hope that's
some kind
okay.
of Mechanism to.
Yep,
make sure it happens.
just in case. Yep.
So you just get an engineer report saying the berm is what it's supposed to be and it's structured.
Yep,
Once
that's
you get that
exactly.
engineering report, you release the money back to them.
So when we do a final plat approval of any kind, we'll go out there and that's what we'll do. We'll have EM go out there with us and we'll take a look, but yeah. So also down on 3.4.2, we talk a lot about adjacent street buffers. So we said residential subdivisions, except on a main or collector street where the buffer is a maximum height of 20 feet. So that's something we added. And then PDs, we kind of cleaned that up a little bit. And we said that PDs have different buffer requirements depending on the PD. And we said that buffers are still required in all approved PDs. And then we're going to put that buffer requirement in Article 10, which is going to be the new PD ordinance that you're going to see sooner.
Okay.
And then the only other thing that's changed is on 3.4.5. So if there's plant material that needs to go in and there's nothing currently there, we used to have 30-foot centers. We didn't think that was enough. We went 15-foot centers for trees, so we get quicker coverage on the areas that don't have a natural buffer. Better?
Yes, sir.
Okay, any questions or comments additionally from the board? On the buffer
I think it's,
proposal?
helps
That's
protect
a lot
our
of
people a lot more.
issues that we've been dealing with, like.
As far as, I know Commissioner Kiefer was concerned with the appearance of things from the road, well as all of us. Addresses protection of the people. It's good.
Okay, thank you.
All right, do we want to move forward then with farm preservation presentation, Steve?
Please. So at the retreat, we talked about farmland preservation. This is a new state bill that was passed, I think in the beginning of 2023. And so we kind of want to take advantage of this. The purpose and intent would be more or less preservation of farmland, forest land, horticultural land. Obviously, it's going to do preservation of open space, environmentally sensitive lands. And so, we want to keep that character of the county that you guys, try to protect all the time. This would be helpful in doing that. I'd like to point out in definitions, I think we've pretty well got most of that in there. So it's really what this boils down to is we're purchasing developmental rights for a piece of property that currently has to be in farming. So they've got to have farming receipts. We put in there $500 annually. It could be more than that if you want to make it more. And they've got to have at least 10 acres. So we didn't do it by zone. Most of these will be AR1, but there are some non-conforming AR2s that are over 10 acres as well. And then there's a little bit of other criteria. They must have 100 feet of road frontage. And the purpose is that's what we're really trying to protect in that character is when people drive by. And then, again, they got to have at least the $500 in the last 6 months for agricultural income. And then it has to be considered a threatened piece of property. So on 30, you could probably see 2 or 3 farms that with everything that's going on in the 30, those could be at the top of the list because that's where the development is taking place. And I know there's some examples of other areas too, but that's what comes to mind because that's where a lot of subdivisions are going. So that would be the criteria. Okay, what happens? So we would have the county appraise the property for the worth of the property.
Based on the existing use.
Based on the existing use, that's correct. Now that's up to the appraisal of the county to do it. And we're keeping that in-house. We're not asking the landowner to go get an appraisal. Now they can challenge the appraisal, but that's in here too, but they could. So then based on that appraisal, the way it works is the landowner would more or less put 25% of that value. So let's say $100,000. So 25,000 would be the landowner's consent. Think of it as KUVA, kind of like where, they just set that aside and they're not going to do anything with it. That would be on them. The state has the program to do 50% of the value. So 25 has been set aside by the landowner. $50,000 would be state contribution. And then the local contribution is the last 25,000 or the last quarter of it. So 25%. That's how that would be. It doesn't have to be the entire property. It can just be the 10 acres that face the road.
It's got to be a minimum.
To the landowner is
Money.
reduced taxes, reduced,
Could be
where do they
reduced
say-
taxes, but he would be getting that, that 75% of the development right value or the property value?
Go ahead.
It's 75% of the value.
Okay, so, it's a development easement he's giving us, right? And so let's say we determine that value is $200,000, he would be getting $150,000 and being able to obviously keep using the land the way that he's been using it.
Literally gets 150,000
Yes.
He does.
from the state.
Well, no, it would be
50% from the state, 25 from us.
Yeah.
yeah.
And
And how long is this
perpetuity.
perpetuity? I say, so it's forever. He's
Yeah.
It is.
or
Now,
while he owns the land.
that's
Okay.
no, it goes with the land. So I get.
No, I'm just listening.
That's okay.
I want to make sure.
Now
clear.
also,
Because
where
the
it could
people that
be,
apply for this need to understand the
What-
long-term ramifications of doing this.
What can we do with that property? Anything? Is
No.
it-
Well, we would own that easement, the development easement to
I
that
think
property.
what we get is nothing can be developed without our permission.
That's
It
correct.
could be developed. He has to come to us and say, oh, I'd like to make this commercial or industrial.
Well, but what throws a hiccup in there is what the state's requirement is
Yeah.
on that. Since the state is kicking in 50% of the money, they may say that this may have to be in perpetuity. Is that the
It
case?
doesn't, but also now they can come back, the landowner can come back, or their sons or daughters and say, hey, we've changed our mind. We want to buy these back. So there's a long list of criteria in the ordinance
Okay.
and the state
And
for
but we
them to be
still,
able to buy it back.
we still have the opportunity to say, no, you can't buy it
still have the
back. We're still
opportunity to-
trying to protect our
Yeah.
corridor. We want it to be
It's-
beautiful.
Well, let's
whatever.
just say Farmer Brown dies and his kids inherit it and they don't want to farm.
They can't,
What then?
they
It just
can't-
grows up.
they can't develop it.
They have
can't
to
do
sell
anything
it.
with
They can sell it. They just have to sell it to someone who agrees to use it as a farm.
That's right. They can. Now, just remember, this is typically going to be a portion of the property. So if you've got 30 acres on 30 and you've got, 4 acres that go along 30 and maybe it's, 2,000 feet deep and it, runs along or something like that. That's all they could still have the interior of the property to do what they wish. But
Okay.
that area has to be farmed. It has to be an easement, and that would be what is the value as far as the character of the county.
I'm not seeing the real value for us to invest in this other than support the state. But I'll tell you why, because if it was designed to help our agriculture and keep large tracts, I'd be all over it. Because I've been looking at ways that we talked about that. How do we protect our agricultural folks so they can continue to farm and so forth? But you're talking about maybe 4 acres of a 10-acre piece of tract. We're
That-
gonna spend
that's
money
one
just so we can make it look prettier.
No,
That's just part of the.
And I'll say the 4 acres is, it's not a good example.
No.
No, if it's large tract, I get it.
You-
I definitely don't think R2 ought to be included.
What'd you say?
AR2?
AR2, because I think the design, in my mind, that's just my opinion, is we're trying to protect agricultural property. So this landowner has 1,000 acres. He'd like to see it stay in farming. He wants to encourage his kids to keep it in farming. And he says, will y'all work with us on this? And as a commission, if for 25% of just the easement value, because we're
Right.
not paying the market value of the whole property, right? Just the development.
The
So-
easement as far as, what's the depth are we talking about again? What's?
So, it could be whatever we want. And that's that's
Okay.
what I'm saying is, that's 4 acres is, it's kind of a bad example. We just have a limited amount of money that we can work with.
I know we just need to be able to explain this very clearly to anybody that would apply to this and again, how it could affect them in the
I
future.
think we need to scratch that altogether.
Mr. Chair,
But it
so,
sounds good to me.
so the 1,000-acre property, 9 times out of 10, that's not going to be threatened. So part of the state criteria for application would be, it needs to be under some kind of threat to some degree. So either on a road frontage or somewhere like that. So if it was up in the northern end of the county and there were no threats to it as
Yeah.
far as development.
I'm not sure I see the,
Gonna be on the south end.
Yeah, I'm not sure this-
And this came up because, this kind of, the vision and the comments that, we hear about, protecting, certain areas, of the county. This is a cheap way to do it, right? Because it's 75% of the value is not provided by the county. That's the only reason we brought it up. And this program has come up, which has allowed us to do it. So we have to come up with a corresponding ordinance that permits us to do it. But if
Tim,
y'all
it'd
let
be-
people do,
it would be more of us trying to protect green space.
Yeah.
Not farmland, really.
Mhm. but
The criteria you've got to meet to even do it, I mean, you got to make $500 in the last 6 months.
But an individual that has this
Can you sell some
land,
trees and do that?
if
No,
they
and
can protect it or not sell it, they're not going to.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean us giving them money.
But could somebody have 100 acres and say, I want to get the money for all 100 acres and
They can.
we would have to come up with.
no, we wouldn't have to do anything. It's voluntary on our part.
Voluntary, yeah.
Oh, I see. So we
Yeah.
could say no.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's, so if it meets the criteria, yeah, and.
Because it could get costly. I mean, if a lot.
It could.
Are we have to do this because of what the state's doing?
Or we have to do it?
Yeah.
No, we don't have to do it. The state created a program for us to opt in on. And so, I mean,
But still, it could be.
I just thought that was why we were, one of the reasons we were looking at this, because we had to do something to go along with it. Yeah, I'll be honest with you, I don't see where it really
Benefits.
benefits.
I don't see
That's
where
just
it
my
benefit
opinion.
anybody.
Yeah, I can't see the long-term benefits. I like the idea we're going down now, the corridor zoning, where they have, if you develop it, you got to have certain green space and green items and facade. We've been looking at that for 21.
Yes,
I'd rather see us pursue that.
it's coming.
Yeah, for the corridors. Don't you agree versus
Yeah.
buying property? Let's
Mhm.
put some requirements on those corridors.
So,
Does
yeah,
that make
farmland
sense?
preservation just might happen on its own, right?
Yeah.
And keep in mind, private entities can come in and do this themselves. They don't need us to do it. A private, land conservation bank could do the exact same thing in Effingham County, use this law. Except rather than the county contributing the 25%, the private entity would be contributing the
There you go. I
25%.
think we'll move on. I want we, unless the board wants to pursue it further, I would suggest we look at those private banks who are interested in land conservation and say, hey, you guys like to do that in Effingham County, we consider letting you
Okay.
partner with you
I
there.
agree with
At no
that.
cost to us.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, but appreciate it. Okay. All right. That's the two items that are on the agenda. Is there any other items for discussion?
Yeah, I can bring up one. I just got an earful before I pulled in on the topic of what we talked about at the retreat for the dove hunting as far as firearm discharge. That gentleman is not happy at all with our, I guess our upcoming procedure. He feels he's shot doves in that field for 65 years, and he doesn't feel that there should be an actual process or a form he has to fill out to
Shoot
Can-
doves in his field.
shoot doves in his field. And he's upset.
I don't think they have to do that unless they get a complaint, do they? They could.
That's right.
No, not if we make a,
Well,
we need to leave it what the state requires. And all this getting a permit on his own land, I don't believe in that either. Do whatever the state's got in there and just follow their rules. And instead of 40 yards, instead of 300 yards or whatever it is, we just go by what the state's already got in there. Why do we need to change that? And that's what we've done.
Trying to address the concern of the new folks that's moving in here and not used to hearing guns go off.
We just go with what the state requires.
Yeah.
That's all we got to do and everything's good.
Under what we discussed, it would require everybody to get a permit, even if you met the guidelines of 1,000 foot, right?
No. If you had the guidelines of the 1,000 foot, you don't need a permit. You're 900 feet, you're good to go. The issue is, and the issue in this case is that on a piece of property that was historically used for dove hunting, someone built a home within that 900 foot, and that person complained. Now, and so therefore our current ordinance of 900 feet takes hold, where the sheriff is responsible for going out there and enforcing it.
Paul's right there. So this is really what we're trying to institute
Was exempted.
was an exemption so they could continue to do that.
That's correct. You're
even
right.
though
So we
somebody
created a
built
way
next to
for
them.
them to circumvent that 900 feet requirement. And we talked to the sheriff about it because the firearm discharge is one of his number one complaints that he has to respond to. And so he wanted to do it in a way that, could be easily enforced.
So if we don't do anything and that house is built within 900 feet, the sheriff's got to go out there and address it and say, all right, guys,
That's
you
correct.
got to stop this right
That's-
now.
and
that's right
and
now.
And then that's state law as well to 900 feet,
No,
right?
no. The state doesn't have a law. They basically say off of a state road,
50 yards off. the state road.
50 yards.
50 yards off a state road, which really doesn't affect us that much. Because
So it's our ordinance that's the issue.
our ordinance is
People
the
are
issue.
moving within the distance of that ordinance.
That's right.
So we were trying to come up with something that would allow everybody to continue to do business as usual.
They
Just
need to do what
don't like
they
to say it.
traditionally did, but made it
30 if I'm having a dove shoot.
Why can't the noise ordinance?
And also let the sheriff know ahead of time, if he started to get the calls, he could just say, hey, they're permitted.
It's a
to do what
permitted
they're doing.
use.
And we
Is
were
that-
trying to come up with something that the sheriff can
Hey,
enforce.
He ain't going for it, huh?
I got some country folks in my district
I know it.
and
And they
they
should
hear
see what
no,
notice-
that's all they hear. And, so he's upset. He's wanting to be on the agenda. I've tried to steer him to the second meeting in October. And he's probably going to bring some friends, and I'm just giving y'all a heads up.
Yeah, that's good. I guess what I'm hearing though is if we're trying to do something to help them, maybe it's communicating them, this helps you not have an issue with your neighbors and the sheriff. You know what I'm saying? Versus you
I
can't have
understand
it.
his point though. He's been doing this all his life.
Somebody
Now
moving-
somebody's moved in, is like, I don't want to hear all that. He's like, I've been shooting birds here all my life. Why have I got to fill out a form to walk out in my field and shoot birds?
That's right.
Is there another way to address it then?
No, just let him do like he's been doing.
Well, the sheriff's going to be called though, because it's going to be against the order. He's got to go. out and
Because we
address
got an ordinance, because the county has an ordinance to do that. It's not a state ordinance.
it.
the
I know,
county's
that's what
got
I'm
it.
saying. Is there something else we can do then?
And that's what we were trying to figure out with
Besides-
the sheriff.
900 feet?
If this 900 feet is not
Where'd the
workable,
900 feet come from? Did we just come up with
It-
that arbitrarily to calm these other
it
folks down?
comes from 300, I don't know, 300 yards. It's in the
So
ordinance.
300 yards is, satisfies about half of the ordinance that we use in the county. There's still some lethal ordinances after.
About shooting.
Who made that ordinance to start with?
Not
Where did
us.
that
I
come
mean-
from?
Not before my
county.
time, I don't know.
I think it was in the late,
My time too.
I think it was in the late nineties
Yeah.
is what he told me, which I don't remember.
I thought.
No,
some of
you
this
can get
had to
just,
do with,
It was before I.
the
Hey,
fatality
Tim,
that we.
remind us what the ordinance says or
okay,
Steve.
it
It says that if you fire a firearm within 900 feet,
of a residence, not a property line,
Right.
a residence, and you do not have consent of that resident, right? So if it's your next door neighbor and you know him, say, hey, I'm having a dove hunt this weekend, just to give you a heads up, you've got consent of the property owner, you can do it. That's what the ordinance says right now.
okay.
Property owner hadn't been there but a year or so.
I know the whole story.
Yeah,
I do.
that's not the issue. That's not the issue. The issue is just. coming
This is
something
not
that
a
makes it-
safety issue.
So what we tried to do was exempt those folks.
I got what you're trying to do
that are-
too.
That are used
I'm
to
just
this.
asking, is there something else we can do where they don't have to get a permit that, is it changing the footage? Would that be any issue?
What I would recommend is maybe we try and have a quick workshop before the meeting with the sheriff's office and see if we can come up with, or maybe set up a meeting with some commissioners in the sheriff's office to come up with something that's enforceable. Because if you eliminate it, right, you may eliminate it for these folks.
But our gun range folks, so
Yep.
That's right.
that'll be a,
But the gun, you can
Mhm.
put a gun range anywhere you want, and you know what a nightmare that one gun range we have.
Yeah.
That's not technically a gun range is.
This is not a gun range. They hunt.
I
they
know
hunt
what you,
doves there one time a year.
I know that, but
Yeah, that's not
if
the
you
issue,
limit, if you
Reggie.
do what
So
you want, Commissioner
if it's a-
Loper,
If it's a violation of ordinance, we need to find out how we can resolve that so that our constituents who's been doing it every year can continue to do what they've been doing and not make it complicated.
if you were do, if you were to do what you're recommending, which is 50 feet off of a yard, that may solve the problem with the dove hunt, but it'll create a bunch of other problems with the sheriff has to deal with on a regular basis.
Yeah.
If he gets 50 phone calls on firearms discharge and 5 of them are related to, legitimate hunting purposes, the 45 are related to folks, having a barbecue in their backyards and just blowing off a AR-15. And the sheriff wants to be able to address that still. And so he's got I think it's worth to sit down with him and maybe a couple commissioners and see if we can come up with something that protects the hunter.
I think a workshop's
but
a great
also
idea.
protects
I
public
think we need to
safety.
Sit down with Jimmy and come up with something.
Yeah. I don't-
yeah, I mean, because that's the thing in the back of my mind is, we can fix one thing and I can see where it could really create some other issues with some of the gun range
And I can see the
issues, but
safety aspects.
Fix
You
one
start
item, break
getting out
two
of my
more.
district where people are
Mhm.
getting more and more.
That's right. Tighter, closer
crowded.
homes.
Yeah.
You get out to Jamie's district, you got miles of
Number nine.
It's
don't
a
hurt that
different,
bad.
it's a different scenario.
I like the idea of what we were trying to do. Let's get Jimmy in here for a workshop and we'll move on. But I like the idea we were trying to do, if we can make it so simple that you could call dispatch and say, no permit. Hey, I'm Wesley Corbett. I'm having at 1536 tomorrow, I'm having a dove hunt
Or an online thing.
on this day.
Like
Well,
you
no,
did
that's what we did. We made it online,
That's what we're talking
free.
about
You
doing.
can go on there and do it.
Like a burn permit.
Yeah, you,
That's where we're at.
like
but
real
that's
quick,
what-
that's what we
Yes.
recommended.
That's
But-
no time.
You know, it's a, you know, it,
Hunt does in the morning, you'd have to do it the night before because nobody to answer you.
yeah. And so it still was something they didn't want to have to deal with.
Well, and I think it has to be something that you could do literally at the last second if you needed
Yeah,
to.
because some
You know-
people, hey, I got birds in the field. You want to hunt in the morning?
They call you that morning, so we're gonna have a hunt. So, I mean,
Register
it
it
needs to
on
be
the
something
permit.
so simple,
Say he done this at 9 o'clock.
Dispatch.
Now he's good.
you
It
know,
would probably go along with whatever we wanted to. I mean, he doesn't.
I
mean,
still
he-
think,
He doesn't make the rules for the county.
he's got some
enforces it.
ideas, but he can tell us some ideas, maybe how we can make it simpler.
Better. Yeah.
Okay,
Well, I'll let the resident know that it's under further discussion.
sounds good. And let him know,
we need to have a workshop if he's got birds.
but Jamie, let him know too, that what we're trying to do is make it where,
Can we have the workshop at off-site location and bring guns?
yeah. Have a bird hunt. But
The one hunts out there, him and his grandson.
I got it.
He don't have a field full of, he don't have 25 people lined up on Courthouse Road all the way down to Fence Road. It's him and his grandson.
Right,
But
but
something like that, he'd probably never hear people.
that's not the issue. The issue is just being.
But he sold somebody land across the road from him.
Yeah.
And that's who's complaining.
I got you.
So we also got abandoned real property. Is that part of what we're going to discuss today?
Was that on your list?
Yeah, I know we talked about some of the workshop. We're going to try to have something.
Yeah, that's in the, one of the handouts.
Yeah.
I know we're trying to get something done for the burned out trailer.
Is this a nuisance property?
Article 3.
General
yeah.
provisions, abandoned real property.
Okay, that actually inside here is the buffer street 1-4.
Oh, I see.
Now, we got a nuisance ordinance coming, October 3rd.
That will cover that.
That will
Okay,
cover that.
okay,
That's exactly right. Now, that
Well,
was-
good, because I definitely have some of that in District 3.
Good deal.
I'm sure we got
We
it.
have agritourism coming on October 6th.
Okay.
You gotta,
And as we
10
move
minutes.
on, make sure this is clear as we move. Let's talk to our constituents and let them know we're not trying to restrict their ability. We're trying to find some way that they can continue without being complicated. That's the goal.
The one thing you could tell them is if you don't get a complaint, it doesn't apply.
Well,
But he is getting.
and he asked me about what have they said? And I said, well, honestly, we have not gotten any other complaints about this situation.
I thought it reverted back to where we had that fatality a couple of years ago and it was a safety issue. I didn't know it was like this part of it.
It's just a,
'Cause I know there was,
Okay.
we couldn't figure out who.
I think the issues are going to have more of this as people buy property within 900 foot of a field, like where we hunt across the street from me,
Yes, sir.
and some way where we can continue to hunt and enjoy what we enjoy recreationally in this county and not be a problem for the sheriff.
Right. I'm all for it.
Yeah,
I love
okay.
it. So.
All right. Anything else?
Can I bring up something real quick that we discussed about the staging of
Yeah.
these construction
Yes,
processes?
we need to start thinking that through. So
And it-
please.
And I just wanted to bounce this off y'all. And so we had a meeting with regards to our roundabouts. And we were talking about construction and then the conversation got into detours. And that opened a door that really nobody was thinking about. And we probably should have thought about earlier. And so I know we'd like to get everything done now. But I think we have to break things up, particularly around the Goshen-Hodgeville corridor, in pieces, just so we don't shut down and create detours and delays simultaneously at once. And I'll give you an example so that if we ever had to shut down during the roundabout construction, if you at let's say Goshen and Hodgeville, even if it was just for a day, those folks would not have a convenient way of getting out of the county unless Effingham Parkway was opened. And so, while it would be nice to kind of, and so we're going to be thinking about that when we come up with the order. Probably spending a little bit of extra money on right-of-way acquisition, and relocating utilities so we can get them out of the road, so that we don't have to shut down roads. But we'll probably end up having to break up the Goshen Road widening projects into two pieces, because there's way too much construction going on between Effingham Parkway and Hodgeville Road, that we can get that first section done from 21 to Effingham Parkway. But we'll have to wait on the second section until all the roundabouts in Effingham Parkway is in. And so we're coming up with a timeline for the order that we have to do this. But, we were putting it all in our head. And so if we had to do a Goshen Road widening, a Hodgeville 30 roundabout, which could potentially close that Hodgeville, two additional roundabouts at Colic, Hemley, and Goshen on Hodgeville, and those folks just trying to get their kids to school, and then having to come up with through a roundabout construction on Colic, Hemley, and 30, it could potentially be a nightmare. And so when we give you the dates, we will come up with the order by which we are going to do these projects, so that we can keep traffic functional, but not having an additional north-south artery to create a detour with is going to be a problem. And so we may have to delay some of these roundabouts until Effingham Parkway is open.
That's a big problem, because we've been thinking we're gonna have this stuff online while we're approving projects. So,
Well,
how far are we kicking the can down the road to be able to have these improvements to move traffic? Because
Let me add on to what you were saying and maybe give a little bit of answer to that.
Okay.
I was forward when Tim and I looked at this past week, and he was going with the time schedule. That's why I asked him if he'd give us a time frame of how this construction might work. So it's hard to get your head around it, but I don't see how in the world we can build, although we hope we could, the roundabouts at 30 and 30, Goshen and Hodgeville and Hodgeville and Colic, because they said it'd take like 8 months to finish those things.
Much to close.
If you went down to one lane traffic, it would still be a nightmare.
Well, and that's the problem. It would still be, even if we went to one lane traffic, it would still be a nightmare.
Yeah.
Because that's obviously the way people get to school and the way people get to work. It won't be a problem when Effingham Parkway is open, because they'll have an alternative.
Right. That's where I was going. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to suggest the board. I don't see how in the world, I know we wanted to, and I was pushing for it. And Roger's already told me, Wesley, I told you so, about the development we've approved already. I don't see how we can build those two roundabouts before the parkway is completed. We're thinking about some other ways we'll need to talk about with the board about how we might work a detour once the parkway is done. But I don't know how in the world, that's the first thing, that we can create that havoc until the parkway is done. Then we've got some alternative routes. We don't even have any inconvenient alternative routes right now.
Right.
For diverting the traffic. The other thing is we have to look at for real now, because I've always been improving or encouraging approving of multifamily or density based on the fact, and I tell people when I speak at their meetings, 2 or 3 years it's going to be different. Now, that's not necessarily true, because we need the parkway finished to not disrupt the already difficult traffic patterns. It is going to be a lot better eventually, right? But we need probably more than 2 years to get where we need to be.
I've told the engineers, I said, you have to now think of, you have to tell me before we go into contract here, what the effect is going to be on traffic, right? So we think we've come up with a way where they don't have to close the intersection, the road ever.
Good.
Right? Which is a plus,
Without the parkway being built?
Without the parkway being built, right?
Okay.
Still one
That-
lane of traffic,
But
but would that still be one lane of traffic?
at some point there would have to be one lane of traffic, which is similar to what they're dealing with right now on Blandford, right? Blandford, they're able to do 2 lanes of traffic because it's a much larger roundabout. On these smaller roundabouts, you don't have that space to deal with. So it may require us to actually buy more right of way just so we can create an additional lane of traffic around the work that they're doing. So we're working on that, but it was a major stumbling block right now on how we are going to proceed with all these projects simultaneously, knowing that it's going to potentially be a traffic nightmare for folks, particularly with stuff that we already under construction or will be under construction, which is Hodgeville 30 roundabout, Goshen Effingham Parkway roundabout, right? There's going to be an effect on Goshen Road because of that roundabout we're putting in there. And lastly, what's already under review with GDOT, which is the 30 Collick-Hemley roundabout. So it's all of those. All of those those 3 are set in stone. They're happening, right? So we've got to do the stuff that we know is not happening yet, that we, at a time frame that it doesn't create this nightmare scenario where people will not be able to get to work without a 10 mile detour.
Out of route. Why so long? Why 8 months to build a roundabout?
Well, that may change now. It may take that long. The issue had to do with, and it's somewhat limited to Hodgeville because Hodgeville has a 36-inch water main that is literally hugging the road. It's not, when that was installed, there was not a good distance between the road and the water main. And so we were originally told them, since it's our water, it provides water to our entire customer base, that you have to encase that and not to relocate it. Now we're telling them you're going to have to relocate it, and you're going to have to relocate it with what's called a hot tap or a wet tap, which means you basically build the relocation, and then turn it, and then tap
turn it
into it
on.
overnight.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be more expensive. The utility relocation is going to take more time, but the road construction is going to take less time.
Do that in stages. Is the last question.
Yeah.
Stages
move on.
where the utilities are done first to
Yes.
help out
Mhm.
the closing of the road or potential closing of the road.
That's a change from when I originally talked to you,
Right.
Okay.
Wesley.
All right, we're going to be out of time here because in 5 minutes we got to start the board meeting. How about we make this the topic of discussion, because you'll have 30 days between now and the next workshop we
Yep.
have at our second meeting in
And I'll get Roberts here too.
October. And let's make this a big topic of discussion of how we're going to move forward, get these things done.
Right.
That'd be great.
And I should have a game plan easily by then.
Yeah. It's 30 days to continue working. I want to hear more about what has changed since you and I talked as well.
Be on the 17th.
Something like that. The second meeting is our standard workshop. We meet at 4:00. All right, with that, we need to adjourn this workshop and take a 5-minute break, use the restroom, whatever, be back and be ready to call the meeting to order in 5 minutes. Okay. Mr. Manager, are we ready? When you're in? Everybody over there ready? Good.
Right.
All righty. We're going to call to order the Effingham Board of Commissioners regular meeting this September 19, 2023 at 5:05 PM. We'll begin with roll call. Mr. Floyd.
Here.
Mr. Burdette.
Here.
Mr. Corbett's here, Mr. Deloach.
Here.
Mr. Loper.
Here.
And Mr. Kiefer is with his family tonight. We're going to keep him in our prayers as we have the invocation in just a minute, as he's been with his family at the loss of his mom, a great lady. And so we will remember him tonight as well. So if everyone would please rise for the invocation given by Commissioner Burdette and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance to the American flag.
Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for being able to be here tonight, Lord. Lord,
Lord,
we want to lift up the Kiefer family to you and all those concerned, Lord. I pray you be with them.
So
give
they
them
want
comfort,
to rise for the
peace,
invocation given
Lord,
by
like nobody else
Commissioner
can.
Burdette.
Lord, you are the great comforter.
Allegiance to the
Lord, we
American
pray
flag.
that what we do and say will glorify you in some way, Lord. We're thankful for everybody to be able to be here tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're down to our agenda approval. Our clerk went to a class today, but she is joining us by Zoom. Stephanie, are you there?
Yes,
Stephanie?
sir, I am here, Mr. Chairman. Good evening.
She said all I had to do was ask for it. Her voice should be there. Our clerk went to a class today, but she is joining us by Zoom. Stephanie, are you there? What is that?
There's another chairman out there.
The other ones, the recording's behind us.
Stephanie, are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
I do not hear. If you come online, if you can hear us, then just start speaking and I'll hush. But there are some agenda changes tonight. Just want to make you aware of those. And so we'll have to, I'll give you the changes and then have a motion to accept the changes as I'm describing them. Item number 1 and 2 under unfinished business have been requested to be withdrawn from the agenda. So they are to be withdrawn from the agenda tonight. That's item 10, 1 and 2.
Hey, why can't you hear me?
And item number 10, under
Why
new
can't you
business,
hear me?
is added
Are you?
a consideration to approve a final advisory agreement with Davenport and Company LLC. That's one addition. I don't believe there's any other corrections or additions to the agenda. Do you know of any?
No, sir.
You have a motion to.
I'll
approve
make a
those
motion.
corrections?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the noted changes.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Burdette to approve with the noted changes. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, our agenda is approved. Item number 6 are the minutes. Consideration to approve the September 5th, 2023 regular meeting minutes. Are there any corrections or additions to those minutes as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Burdette to approve the minutes as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, our minutes are accepted as presented. Welcome to everyone tonight who's at this meeting. Comments shall pertain to the agenda items only, please. Should you wish to make remarks, clearly state your name. Come to the microphone, of course, first. State your name clearly, your full name, and then commence to speak. And if you could keep your comments to 2 or 3 minutes, we always ask if you'd help us with that. It'll move the meeting along and others will have a chance to speak. Correspondence for this meeting, all the documents from this meeting are located in the clerk's office or on the board's website. So I hope you've had a chance to review those. With that, we'll move to item number 9, which is our consent agenda. There are 4 items. I'll read the consent agenda items and then have a motion to approve at once. And this section shall include those routine items that there'll be no discussion. If you want to discuss it, we'll have to remove it and then it's listed under new business. Item number 1 under consent agenda, consideration to renew an agreement with eGPS Solutions for the eGPS base station at the administrative building. Item number 2, consideration to approve sanitation releases as submitted by administration staff, authorized by the tax commissioner, tax assessor, and fire chief. Item number 3, consideration to ratify and affirm approval of enterprise vehicles orders for sheriff's office and fire. Item number 4, consideration to approve the 2023 ACCG safety grant discount form. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve as read.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Loper, second Mr. Deloach, to approve the consent agenda as read. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously. We go to unfinished business, and a reminder, item 1 and 2 has been removed. If you're here tonight for those items where there was a public hearing continuation for the TNT Exley properties to rezone 1,051 acres located at Highway 21 from PD-MU to PD-MU to allow for an amendment to that plan development, then that has been withdrawn, and it'll have to go back through planning board and everything. There's nothing else going to be heard on that. So it will stay with the current PD zoning. Just make sure if you're here for that item, we will not be addressing that until it's comes back up again, if it should ever. Item number 3, under unfinished business. This was tabled postponed from 8/1/23 meeting. The planning board recommends approval of an application by Warren M. Kennedy to rezone 1.13 acres located at 195 Elm Street from R2 to B3 to allow for a storage facility. This is map number 302, parcel number 167 in the 1st district. And once again, postponed from 8/1/23, and we'll continue with the public hearing that we began the last time. Ms. Katie, you want to introduce it again?
Yes, good evening, gentlemen. The applicant is requesting to rezone 2B3 to allow for an outdoor storage facility. Since we were last here, the staff report has been amended to reflect Effingham County Policy number 5-22, which recommends that if a single parcel has access to 2 roadways, it uses the lesser of the 2. Staff has also talked to the applicant, who has agreed to some conditions. One being access to Elm Street is permitted only if the proposed development submitted at the time sketch plan matches what he is describing this evening. And is equal or comparable to some condition. He has also agreed to disclose that limitation of access at such time as the property is sold or ownership is otherwise transferred. And also as a condition, which is already per the traffic route portion of the ordinance, access to Elm Street is restricted up to class 5 vehicles. And the applicant's here this evening.
Okay.
Also,
We're in a public hearing. Is anyone that wanting to speak in favor of this? You don't have to speak at this time. This was some opposition, but anyone wanting to speak in opposition to this request? Seeing no one, will close it and see if there's any further discussion from the board.
No, this addresses my issue with them coming on Elm Street, restricting it to class 1 through 5 heavy vehicles or whatever vehicles coming in on that road. So Mr. Kennedy's fine with that. I think I'm fine.
Sounds good. The conditions, I didn't see those listed in the agenda,
they're-
but we have them noted.
There was a second piece of paper here with a.
Oh, okay.
The alternative 1 covers all that.
Okay, so the conditions that she read off were just listed?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. All righty,
I'll make a motion. We approve alternative 1
with the conditions as noted.
with the conditions as noted here.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, got a motion by Mr. Floyd to approve alternative 1 with additional conditions that were noted, just noted, and a second by Mr. Loper. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously. Now, since we add those conditions, we have to do the second reading at the next meeting. So we can't do the second reading, but they have approved it. You have to have a second reading when conditions are added to the item.
Well,
We did the conditions beforehand, so.
yeah, this
These
is what
are-
was submitted tonight.
This is.
We're approving what was submitted. There was no changes tonight.
Second reading.
Today.
Make any changes. to
What was advertised
What was advertised is my question, yeah.
is, were the conditions advertised And I don't know if this would be,
Okay, well, that's fine. But it'll be on the next meeting. We'll give, it'll,
So it is approved, but we have to have a second reading on
Need
the
another one.
conditions.
Change it.
Okay, so
What was?
you don't even have to come back for the second reading if you don't want to. It'll be, just gotta give. the
appreciate the
public
time. I just want to get that.
Gotta give the public a chance to see the conditions before we. vote. It is approved, but we have to have a second reading. All right, under new business, got some exciting new business 1 and 2 coming up. The first one is consideration to approve a resolution 23-022 for the NAACP. Their 50-year anniversary, I think, is coming up. Ms. Stephanie, are you on the line? Exciting.
Yes.
Business.
Yes, sir, I am here. I'm not sure if you guys can hear me.
Consideration to approve
There's such a delay.
22 for the NAACP. Their 50-year anniversary, I think, is coming up. Ms. Stephanie, are you on the line? Exciting.
Well,
Yes, yes, sir, I am here. I'm not sure if you guys can hear me.
Consideration to approve. Such a delay. So I may need to read this. She wanted the honor of reading this tonight, but I may have to take that. Ms. Stephanie, are you on the line? Sound off.
Yes, yes, sir, I am here. I'm not sure if you guys can hear me.
So I may need to read this. She wanted the honor of reading this tonight, but I may have to take that.
She's got to mute her speakers.
Sound off.
Yes, yes, sir, I'm
Just
here. I'm not
mute her.
sure if you guys can hear me.
We'll have to take care of it.
All right, give me some direction. Do I need to go ahead and present this instead of allowing her to do that?
yes.
Okay, all right.
have to read it or whatever. Unless Tanisha wants to.
Does she want to be the voice? Give me some direction.
Anger.
Yeah, I may go ahead and take the resolution for the file. This.
Well,
Because we're probably gonna look at some pictures here. Who's gonna be the pictures, Tanisha? Okay. I'm gonna, I guess, go to my microphone first. So I can read this and I'll meet. Who here tonight is with the NAACP that we're receiving this presentation to?
so we had to shut her down.
Ms. Lucy, are you doing us the honor of that? Well, if you'll just stand right there just for a second, let me read this resolution.
He's like, you got it.
Let me read this resolution. This is a resolution by the Board of Commission recognizing the good work and the leadership of this organization over the last 50 years they're celebrating. Let me read this to you, and then I'd like to get a picture with you if I could, and anyone else that wants to be involved in this. Effingham County Board of Commission resolution. I'm gonna sit down so they can hear the microphone. From the Office of the Board of Commissioners of Effingham County, Georgia, whereas the mission of the National Association of the Advancement of the Colored People, NAACP, founded February 12th, 1909, established its mission as to ensure the political, educational, social, and economic equality of the rights of all persons and to eliminate race-based discrimination. And whereas following in the tradition of its natural mission, the Effingham County branch of the NAACP received its charter as an official chapter of the November 3rd, 1968, nearly 50 years ago. Whereas the distinguished president of the Savannah branch of the NAACP, W.W. Law, presented this charter to the four original officers of Effingham County branch of the NAACP, Reverend Thomas Kent, President Homer Wallace, Vice President Ruth Griffin, Secretary, and Linwood Griffin, Treasurer, on November 3rd, 1968. Whereas over the course of its more than 50-year history, the Effingham County branch of the NAACP has continued to maintain its mission under the leadership of its five presidents, Reverend Thomas Kent, Homer Wallace, Juanita Woods, Leroy Lloyd, and the incumbent president, Reverend Delmas White. I thought I saw Delmas here earlier. Was he not here? It's not. Has continued to maintain its mission, leadership Whereas on September 30th, 2023, Effingham County Branch NAACP will celebrate another year at the Freedom Fund Gala at the Guyton Civic Center. The theme of this gala is "And the Dreams Live On." And whereas the Effingham County branch of the NAACP continues to exhibit a strong sphere of influence to the extended Effingham County community as it strives to ensure the political, educational, social, economic rights of all persons, with the ultimate goal of the elimination of race-based discrimination. And now therefore be it resolved, we, the sitting commissioners of Effingham County, recognize this milestone and celebrate the history of the Effingham County branch of the NAACP, and further be it resolved, a copy of this resolution will become part of the Effingham County Archives, humbly submitted this 19th day of September in the year of our Lord, 2023, signed by all the commission. All right. Come on. Now, we would let you take this with you, but Phil Keeper's not here tonight. So we gotta get him to sign. So that's definitely give you a buzz and come on, keep it out. Okay? Thank you. Thank you. Oh, you might want to stay there.
Go ahead and read.
Yeah.
Stay down here.
We have a birthday celebration. Here, well, let me put this mic. Yeah, this worked good. We have a birthday celebration tonight for Mrs. Flory Bell White. Is she here? I hope.
Yeah.
This is her 100th birthday celebration. And yeah. We don't have too many constituents of 100 years of age. So this is quite an achievement. I'm going to go ahead and read this while she's coming up because I don't want to make her have to stand too long. In recognition of Mrs. Flory Bell White's 100th birthday celebration, whereas Mrs. Flory Bell White was born on September 22nd, 1923 in Effingham County to Evans and Emma Jean Frazier, along with other children. Whereas she is one of 2 survivors of her siblings and has 3 deceased children. However, she enjoys 7 grandchildren and more than a few grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and she's supplementary aided in nurturing countless children through Effingham County. And whereas Mrs. White is a member of the Macedonian Missionary Baptist Church in Guyton, where years ago she took her place as a spiritual leader and was titled as missionary. Other memberships of notable mention include the Queen of the East, number 126, Herons of Jericho. So you're the Queen Bee. My mom is also a Queen Bee. Whereas Mrs. White was a domestic worker, which was most common in her background era, she was also very active in the senior citizens program. And whereas Mrs. White is a pillar in the community, and that the tender age of 100 years old, yet maintains both her physical and mental faculties, and continues to provide wisdom and knowledge to all who know and love her. This resolution is a symbol to celebrate her long life and legacy. We are told the journey, though at times have been extremely challenging, she remains standing. And now therefore be it resolved, the Board of Commissioners of Effingham County, Georgia joins Mrs. White's family and friends in celebrating her 100th birthday. Be it resolved, a copy of this resolution will become part of the Effingham County Archives. Can we, the commission will come, we'll put the family in front and just get the home right there. And I'll let, if the family wants to hold this resolution.
Congratulations, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Granny, look at me. I got you, girl. Come on.
Cody up in the way. Okay, I think that'll work.
All right, let's go. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, happy birthday. It's amazing.
For yourselves. Thank you. What a joy it is to celebrate folks who have lived in Effingham for so long and have blessed so many. And we thank Miss White and her family for letting us enjoy and celebrate that 100th year birthday.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Can't wait to celebrate the 110th. All righty, we're still in new business. We'll go to item number 3. Consideration to approve a final plat, warranty deed, and infrastructure agreement submitted by BGN Investments LLC for Covered Bridge Phase 3, located off of Highway 17 South, consisting of map number 352, parcel number 37 in the 1st District.
Good evening, Chelsea Fernald, Planner 2. BGN Investments LLC contractors have built roads and drainage infrastructure for Phase 3 of Covered Bridge. In order to sell the 44 lots in this R1 subdivision, water and sewer will be provided by Effingham County. EOM did complete the final inspection and is recommending approval. The county attorney has reviewed and approved the warranty deed and infrastructure agreement, and a bond has been collected for 10% of the total cost of construction, equaling $25,464.80. Staff recommends approval.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or discussion or a motion to approve alternative 1?
Make a motion, we approve alternative 1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Burdette to approve alternative 1. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously. Thank you. Item number 4 under new business, consideration to approve resolution number 23-024, requesting the calling of an election to impose a county 1% T-Splosh tax. Tim, you gonna introduce
Yes,
that?
Mr. Chairman. So if you recall, I believe it was at our last or I'm sorry, 2 meetings ago, we approved the IGA with the project list from our partner cities. Between now and then, Rincon has approved their IGA and their list. The next and final step to get this on the ballot for November is this step, which passes the resolution for call for referendum, which includes the wording of the actual referendum as well.
Sounds good. I just want to make the one note before, see if there's any question, call for a motion. This is a request to renew the current T-Splosh, and it's not an additional.
That's
Mhm.
correct. And so this will not start collecting until the current one reaches its maximum, which we expect to be somewhere in June. And then that one will then terminate, and this one will begin.
So I want to make sure that we communicate that well to our constituents, and that this provides an opportunity. Like this year, we're rolling back a mill. It allows us not to do all our road construction from property taxes, but take it from people who pass by and buy gas in our community or shop in our stores.
Correct. And we're going to make sure we get information out to folks, because we're permitted to just get information out to folks. And we've updated the GIS website when you go into the homepage, so you can actually see on a map the individual projects that are associated with this T-Splosh referendum.
Very good. Any other questions or discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve alternative one.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Loper to approve alternative one. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously.
If you will, I don't think we voted on those two resolutions, number 1 and 2. You read out the resolution. I don't think we voted.
The
Oh,
proclamations.
the first two. You're exactly right. Okay. Very good. I apologize. We've just completed item number 4, new business. Let's go back to item number 1. Is there a motion to approve resolution 23-022 for the NAACP gala?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Floyd to approve the resolution 23-22. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously. And item number 2, consideration to approve a resolution 23-023 celebrating Flory Bell White's 100th birthday. Is there a motion to approve that resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Deloach to approve that resolution. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Lee. If our clerk was here, she'd have caught me a lot earlier. Oh, she
Still
thanked
caught him.
you.
There was just a delay.
Well, thank you, Stephanie, wherever you are. Item number 5, in new business, consideration to approve resolution 23-0 for surplus of various items.
Good evening, Allison Bruton, purchasing agent. This is just a list of vehicles that will be replaced with the vehicles you approved with the consent item.
Any question, discussion?
Make a motion to approve alternative one.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Deloach, second, Mr. Loper to approve alternative 1. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously. Item number 6, consideration to approve change order number 2 for task order 23-REQ-007 with Hussey Gay and Bell.
Yes, sir. So this is for the CEM gym expansion. One side will be the EOC and the other side is the recreation offices. Change order 2 has been requested for additional topographic surveying that needs to be completed. It was assumed that we would have the information from the original design plans, but that was not the case. Staff
Right.
recommends alternative 1.
And it's just $2,500. So is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve alternative one.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Deloach, second, Mr. Burdette to approve alternative 1. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 7, consideration to approve a service agreement for Centos to leasing automatic external defibrillators, AEDs, that's easier to say, devices.
Good
Hello.
evening, Sarah Mousoff, Director, Human Resources Risk Management. Hopefully you can hear me. Sorry, I'm a little swollen. But I do have Lauren here tonight from Cintas to answer any questions you might have. So we're asking for permission to do a 12-month lease on these devices with our safety grant funds. Lee has reviewed the agreement. Everything looks okay from his side legally. We've different departments have reached out to us this last year asking for equipment. This new admin building, we would like one. We don't have one, especially with all the visitors that come in. And Lauren, if you want to kind of answer any questions from them,
No, I think it's great. I think we should have them in every building. We should have them every rec site.
Yes, we're gonna have them at the ball fields. Seth
So
mentioned
we don't have them at the
Sandhill.
ball fields now.
No,
I
sir.
did not realize that.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's,
We just got one at our church.
yeah, these should be everywhere.
Yeah.
So I take it we're not trained in these devices either then, are we?
Yeah, so one of the things I can offer for y'all,
if you'll just say anything.
you say my name, Lauren Jackson. One of the things that I'll provide for y'all, I offer free demos on the AED, so have my travel trainer, I'll come out. There's many people that want to learn how to use this device in this county. I live here, so very, very passionate about it. We also offer training through the American Heart Association, so that's another thing that through y'all's national agreement with Omnia, y'all can utilize with us. Or I can recommend, some
Yeah.
other avenues, so.
I think this is great. And this is funded through our ACCG insurance safety grants. So it's no cost to us. Yeah, I did not personally, maybe some of the other board might be with me. I did not realize we didn't have these already, like in rec facilities and so forth. They need to be there. I think that'll relieve possibly at least some liability. Sometimes, I don't know if it increases or decreases it.
Well, and also maintenance is the issue. We do have one or two of these, I think, floating around in, I think, the previous building. But the issue is they've got to be inspected every year.
Yeah.
So by leasing them, that process is taken care of by Cintas. And so it really becomes a no-brainer for us. Plus, I did want to point out that they do offer not just the training, but the demos, as she mentioned. And Steve Candler has offered to
I was just
be
thinking about that.
demonstration participant.
Get a free shot.
Well,
Great team player.
when I saw this on the agenda, I did mention to Maria, I said, I'd like to know the training that we have. So I think she was going to call Sarah and work with it. But I do think we need to be really keen on training. I know with other cities that I've worked with, they actually went through a program where they invited like managers and 2 or 3 people from each department and was required training. So they would always have somebody in the building or at the ball field, all the rec folks. I'd like to see a training program go with this as well.
Sure, and we also partner with Miss Wanda at EMS, so they have a training officer, Roxanne,
Oh, wow.
comes once a year. Development Services just did it a few months back. They all got first aid, AED training as well.
That in Rankin, I think they did it. The fire department did the training of everybody because they had it, they have EMS there because y'all probably obviously trained on it. So there's a lot of help. So I would like to see us really start focusing with the demos, having staff trained so that we get all, because it does save lives, no doubt about it. So I think it's great.
As far as care of them goes, is that like a monthly thing or do you?
Yeah, so I can kind of cover what our maintenance program looks like. So when you lease an AED from us, you get all of the Cintas service as well. So we actually go around any place that y'all would place an AED with us. We have to scan the serial number. We have to sign off that the pads and batteries are within date because those expire. And then we're signing off that the AED is rescue ready.
I see.
That
Cool.
also comes with free pad and battery replacement. We also are giving you the AED cabinet for free, the signage for free, and then the program management piece, which is through Life Ready 360. So that actually puts the post-incident support on Cintas. So, hopefully this is just really pretty and sits on the wall. We never have to use it, right?
Hopefully.
But if you do, you make one phone call to Cintas. We actually come out, we're going to inspect the unit, get that data over to the doctor for whatever shock it advised. We'll reset it, fresh set of pads, fresh set of batteries. It'll go back on the wall, ready to go. So that's kind of the complete program that you're getting. You're not just getting AEDs, you're getting AEDs in a program as well.
It's great.
And we're getting them for every location, every like rec facility, buildings or what?
So in this current agreement, we got six new ones.
Where would they be?
It's in the safety grant application that we had approved the last meeting. Sandhill, CEM, I know the historic courthouse has asked for one, the new admin building. Can't remember.
And maybe
One
about
more.
the The new courthouse, not the old courthouse.
I don't know if they already have one.
Judicial
But
complex.
we will double check on that for you. Yes, sir. But I know that we had 6 assigned, which was in our safety grant that ACCG approved.
Very good. It's a good start.
Yes,
All right.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Any other question, discussion, or motion for alternative one?
Make a motion to approve alternative one.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Burdette, second, Mr. Floyd for alternative one. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously. Item number 8, consideration to approve an amendment to amend the administrative service agreement with Maritime Health.
So this is just a formality. They kind of had between our broker and Meritain going back and forth with their legal teams. This actually goes back into effect January 1st. It is giving us a $3,000 wellness credit, which we would like to use to promote starting a new wellness program in November. And again, they apologize for the 9-month delay, but their legal teams kind of couldn't get on the same page. And finally, I guess it's approved.
Any question, discussion, or motion for alternative one?
Make a motion to approve all number one.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Loper, second, Mr. Deloach, to approve alternative one. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously. Item number 9, consideration to approve a business associate and client service agreement with Zoom Health LLC.
And that is a typo. It should be Zomo, Z-O-M-O. I think in my report, I think maybe it auto corrected when you guys did the agenda. Yeah. Yep. And I do apologize. Our broker was originally going to be here, but she got sick this morning. So she did send me a brief handout I'd like to give each of you.
Okay.
So Tim and I attended demos back over the summer on 3 that our broker recommended to us for wellness. There's a breakdown. The cost proposal for each one also is included.
Thank you.
You're welcome. For Mr. Keeper and then one of you.
I'm good.
I just wanted to hold this for a second. So staff is recommending that we do go with Zomo. They were the least expensive option as well, but Tim and I kind of liked it. It was more user friendly, very interactive. And again, we've been 3 years with no wellness. We'd like to kind of start that back up. We left it with Blue Cross Blue Shield. And, we have a lot of our employee population not doing preventive health. And we'd kind of like to encourage them by incentivizing, going, knowing their numbers, helping keep our claims down, so the ROI will be in 2 to 3 years, but we need the basics. And what better way than to get them going by incentivizing with premium deductions or gift cards for people who aren't on.
Does that mean no race cars?
So the 150 is that's per employee per
Per-
month?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay. And
And
then, so they're just going to be monitoring or handling the,
Sure. They're like the third party. They handle
Right.
all that because, we don't want the employees thinking that I'm going to have access to all their
exactly.
health data. And in HR, we don't want that responsibility either.
It's going to be a reduced, an incentive program that reduces the cost that the employees currently have to contribute toward their insurance, right?
Sure. Yes.
Okay, that's
Mhm.
good.
Yep.
And the
And-
hope is we will save because we'll have less major illnesses.
Yes. And we're doing good. That's the trend, but we want to keep that trend to go down.
No, we need a wellness program. I think the board would agree with that. That's, people need to be encouraged, and if it's incentive based, they'll probably participate.
Right. And that's what we're trying to encourage is that we care about them as the whole person, right? Their mental, their financial well-being, all of that in one. So this
Right.
will just support back off our EAP. Yes, Tim?
No, I was gonna say, plus we are as self-insured, every dollar that we save in the future is a dollar that's saved by the taxpayer. It's not money that's lost in an insurance premium where we were before. So it's a saving off the top.
Yeah, hopefully it's a benefit financially for the county, but it's definitely a benefit for our folks that work with us and for us, that we're helping them save a little money and be healthier. That's the
Yes.
biggest thing. If we save, praise the Lord, that'd be great. Okay.
So if it is approved tonight, we'll kick off in November with save the dates, and their promos are going to come in and do some training and get everybody ready on how to do the app and the software. So it'd be nice to start for January 1st.
So is alternative one to approve Zomo?
Yes, sir.
All right. Is there a motion for alternative one?
So move.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Loper for alternative one. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 10, consideration to approve a financial advisory agreement with Davenport and Company LLC. Mr. Tim?
Yes, and so this is one of the things I brought up at the retreat. And traditionally, when we've been working with municipal advisors, it's been transactional, basically limited to services surrounding a debt issuance. Based on feedback from the board, from meetings, and really some needs that we have, I think we need to go beyond that. And so they will provide those traditional services, but they also assist in certain areas that I know Commissioner Burdette has been asking about, and is assisting with things like an RFP for banking services. They can help structure that. They can help us with create a capital funding program. To assist Mark as we prepare for these capital projects that we've got down the line. Essentially how we can structure and time them based on the needs financially. And lastly, we're traditionally we've been in an environment where we have not worried so much about our return on deposits. And that is not the situation that we're in anymore. And so they can take a look and make sure, obviously they'll make sure everything that we have is insured or collateralized. But they can look at our return, see if there's better opportunities out there and still provide us with that protection. So this is kind of a full scope and I think it's much needed. And I've met with them 2 or 3 times to tell them what our needs, and they're anxious to work with us.
Are they local? I mean, in the coastal Empire area or?
No, they are actually the Atlanta. They're out of Atlanta or somewhere closer to there. But they work with I think they work with pretty much every one of our surrounding neighbors. I know they work with Bullock. And I believe they work with Bryan as well.
I'm just concerned with these transaction fees that I saw, because they're getting up in 6 figures. So what happens when we do a T-Splosh bond issuance? I mean, as long as we don't ask for their help, then they would not be coming in on that commission, because it looks like these would be, additional commissions on top of the annual $30,000 fee.
Well, the annual $30,000 fee, that's kind of what we didn't want. Let me back up. The fees associated with the bond issuance is what we would paying anyway. On when they issue the bonds. That's how we've traditionally paid our financial or municipal advisor in the past.
Okay, so we always use one transactional anyway.
That's
like
correct.
You were saying.
And those transactional fees come out of the bond issuance. Okay. And they're based on the not just the dollar issuance of the bond, but also the length of the bond as well. So generally those commissions are generally a little higher on the longer term bonds than the shorter term bonds.
And the 30,000 is a flat fee.
Yes.
And then depending on, I don't know, say you had certain capital projects you wanted to get it advised on, is there additional fees on that, or that 30,000?
If it goes beyond the
that?
scope that we have in there, but I will say we will be using every dollar of that 30,000 with the scope of work we will be giving them with regards to the Public Facilities Authority work, with regards to the banking RFP and regards with the capital planning. So they will be using that. I'll be using every hour of that.
Well, I think, like you just said, in the next 12 months, we've got some big items that are coming up. And I don't know, just me personally, I always back into a contract. I like to make sure I can get out easily. And it seems like if we decided to terminate at any time,
Yeah,
it's easy.
that's
So,
right.
What area would be where they would do RFPs for our banking relationships? I see a loan transactions only, but they would,
Hold on, let me,
and I don't see how they would be paid other than the $30,000. I don't see where they provide that service.
I had this thing in, I apologize. Oh, I'm sorry, it wasn't on the,
I'm just scanning it, but I don't see it anywhere. Any services.
Well, and one thing about a agency like this,
Oh, here it is.
they won't have to reinvent the wheel on that RFP.
True.
You know, they'll.
it should
have a
be
pretty
on, I
good-
mean, it's listed as one of the items, right?
Banking center.
Scope of services. So I guess it's covered under the 30.
It's covered under the 30 for scope of service. It's not anything that we have to do beyond that.
They'll do that every 5 years for an RFP.
Right.
So that's not bad.
And we haven't done one for a while and our bank moved. So we are really in a need to look at what our options are there.
Tim, would they give us a proposal? And the retainer is just puts them with us. The retainer is going to be reduced by the hours they spend. It's actually going to be billed, right?
Correct.
So we need them to do something, do an RFP for banks. Would they do a proposal and say, all right, that's going to cost you this much money, so we have a chance as a board to look at it?
No, that RFP is going to be structured under the fees on that RFP is going to be done for us based on that $30,000 as part of that $30,000 retainer. So then we then go out, we then issue the RFP, we get our responses to it. They help us review, they'll give us an opinion on their review and go over with, before we make a recommendation for award.
Yeah, I'm just, you got a retainer, but if it's something that you need them to do and it's going to be $100,000 for them to do it, we get a chance to review it at that.
Oh, yeah,
point.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's what I'm
But
asking.
yeah, I still have to, if it's outside of the scope of what's the included fees, similar to, let's say an EOM agreement
Because
or
beyond
OEM,
30,000,
EOM.
you'll come back to us.
Yeah, similar to EOM agreement, they'll come up with a scope for me and I'll have to present it to y'all.
Okay, sounds good, Will. And
I think with things we have coming up, I think it's definitely worth trying it for 12 months.
definitely with the rates, investment rates changing, it was 1/4%, it wouldn't just throw it in the pool, but the investment pool at the state of Georgia, but now that you can get 2-3%, maybe we need to look at how can we do that and keep it collateralized. I
That's
agree.
correct. And maybe you got to remember that the state of Georgia funds are available immediately at any time. So they have 100% liquidity. We don't need 100% liquidity for 100% of our funds. So if we reduce the liquidity, let's say 3 or 4 months on a certain portion of our funds, we can get, probably a pretty substantial increase in return. I can't do that. These folks can help us
Yeah, I think
figure
it's a
that
great
out.
idea. Any other questions, discussion? Motion to approve alternative one.
I'll make a motion to approve alternative one.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Burdette to approve alternative one. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously. Are there any reports from administrative staff tonight?
No, I'm sorry. The only thing I had was actually that was the T-SPLOS website, which I already mentioned to you. That'll be launched and Mark will make a press release on that either for tomorrow or the next day to introduce folks to that.
Do we have planned regular items for the website, the newspaper? to
Yeah, and
communicate
And
well?
like I said, so we're limited to information and we can, with the scope of projects that we're doing related to this T-SPLOS compared to the last one, there's a lot of information to get out there. And so we want to make sure that folks hear what is going to be done, where it's going to be done, and when it's going to be done.
I think we also need to address what was done with the last T-SPLOS that, because of social media, people's like, well, what'd you do with the other money? People just making these random comments. I think it needs to be listed, what we've accomplished with the other funds that we've already collected.
Yeah.
To show what we
And
have.
some of
done.
that, unfortunately, we're gonna have to communicate that, it's designed, we're ready to start
Well,
building.
that's
it, like
the money spent
roundabouts.
though in design. I mean, it's,
Well, some
I
of
mean-
it's construction that we hadn't spent yet, like the roundabouts. That's in the.
Correct. I mean, anything that had to do with
can't spend
repaving.
Because of the issues we have now.
right, but that's going to be a question that's going to be asked by the doubter.
I agree. We got to communicate why they don't see more right now
Right.
too. And of course, the Parkway is a huge part of that and they can see it.
Yeah.
So-
Parkway was $20 million out of a
Not-
$35 million
Right.
chunk of money. However, we did manage to get every single that Parkway payment done and every single of the repavement projects done, with the exception of Hodgeville, which Hodgeville, we're just waiting on the roundabout. So
But that's
there's a
important
lot
to
of
get that
roads
out.
that we can get out there.
Okay.
So folks,
Anybody's
know.
helping us with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. All righty.
Did we get the list over to them? I guess the list, T-Splosh list?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah. We made sure everybody got that.
Cool.
All right. Anything else from our staff? Okay. I don't know that Stephanie can speak, but Ms. Tanisha, you got anything from the clerk's office? Okay, we'll check with our commission.
Yeah, I haven't had an incident last week. Y'all need to be made aware of, and Steve can help me with this. I had a call over off of a Stagecoach about one of the sand pits, and it's being used to backfill. Somebody's been backfilling it with gypsum. And I had a complaint, said code enforcement out there. And they had been taking I guess, damaged wet gypsum and back dumping it into one of these pits. So they've called in the EPD, and they've shut down all operations over there, and they're gonna have to clean it up. But whenever we were discussing all these sand pits, there's some that are inactive. I've asked Steve to have code enforcement go on a monthly, I don't know how often we need to do it, but these pits need to be looked at, especially the ones that are non-active, to see what the status is and make sure this isn't happening elsewhere in the county. If I wouldn't have got this tip, I'd have never known. Somebody on the road called and had a problem with the odor. And the more I asked, I said, what do you mean? And they just said, smells horrible. I don't know what it is. I called Steve and it went from there and turned into a mess over there. So I think that's something we need to look at, is to inspect these things every couple months, or just keep an eye on them somehow.
Didn't we do something with permitting on these things that allowed us to have a cycle of control where they came back up before the?
Well, we did step one on that, which was any new one would be required to submit to us their reports on an annual basis. I think we have to take the next step where we say, which I know we were talking about, which was as a requirement for your annual business license, you have to provide us those reports as well.
I thought that's what we were going with that.
Yeah, and I think, did we do that, or we did?
Yes, and we also just need permission for us to go on site.
Okay, so it's done already. I'm sorry.
But it's only one time it's annual.
Yeah, but that's what we wanted. We wanted something where that
Make sure it's
they have to get it
operable.
licensed every year. And if they don't, because if it goes 2 years without it, they can lose it or something. There was some nuances there, and that it just put the controls in place that addresses what you're trying to do, get them inspected.
Just get them looked at, because
That's right.
like I say, there's an empty hole and somebody from the porch calls and says, I'll pay you so much a load to dump this crap.
If they don't submit a report to EPD every 2 years, technically they get their permit suspended.
Are we
But
made aware of that?
the problem is,
Process we're doing now will help us because we
yeah,
got to get a license from.
but the
us.
problem is EPD hasn't been actively enforcing that. So that if we don't get their reports on an annual basis, which is required in order to get their business license, which we'll know this cycle that's coming up at the end of November and December, when
Because
those
we just did it last year.
reapplications come out, that we can then we can then they won't have a business license, and so therefore they won't be in compliance, and we can let EPD know.
And then that could be your inventory to go out and do an inspection.
Well, we've only got, the state only has like one mine inspector or something. It's something ridiculous.
Yeah, I think there's like 2 of them
So,
for the
For
district.
the whole,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's the reason I think our folks need to keep an eye on these pits.
So I
So
think
anyway, That's
So I think what you're
it's
adding,
always something
what
different.
you're adding to it, not only will we know if they're open or closed, whatever, but add that if they don't give us those reports, or even if they, I guess if they give us those reports and they're in good standing, that's one thing. But if they don't, we go and inspect them.
Or
And that
maybe
would
just
catch,
do-
that would catch what you just said. If we don't get those reports, we go and inspect ourselves and look and see what, and smell it.
Right.
Okay, all right, very good. Anything
That's-
else?
Other than that, and I think we all had the email about the road where the accident, the fatality was. I don't know whose district that was in.
That was Jamie's district and
Yeah,
Yeah, but anyway, I'll let you cover that.
you said you had some additional information on that one. So
Mhm.
we'll go ahead and jump to you and then we'll come back to,
Sure. Um, we have been putting up signs there repeatedly. I don't know what we can really do. The residents are wanting us to put speed bumps in the middle of the road. I think that would be a lot more dangerous. I've talked with Kristen. She's going to put the speed limit signs back up. We've already got it on a list to have all restriping done on the whole road on Shawnee Egypt. I've talked with the sheriff, and there are not a lot of, I guess, recorded accidents there. I know over the years, folks have complained there's people that take that intersection too fast, but I don't know what else to do. I mean, the signage is there. It has been torn down, but we are getting it back up. And outside of that, I don't know what we're going to do. Yeah.
I talked to the sheriff as well, and I got your email, so I just kind of backed off, but I think he said he could put a lower speed limit that might help. He just can't enforce it. He can still enforce the 45 or whatever it is now, 55, but he can put the 35, and that will help in addition to dangerous curve, slow them down. If the commission's okay with that, you think about putting a 35-mile just for that, one of those signs that's.
I mean, we can do that, but I don't see people slowing down, but I mean, we can definitely try it. I mean,
And
It's
we
fine.
are actually doing that next, I believe at the next meeting for Stillwell Clio. For a section of that, where we reduce the speed on it and then the next time we do the speed study. If the speeds come in appropriately, then it can actually be radar enforced. If they're following them. And they do a speed check by following them, they can still issue a ticket. They just can't issue one using radar.
Yeah, and that's good, but my bigger thought is that it's not just so we can ticket them if they do over that. Safety, if they had they do it, the angled one that shows 35 in the middle, means it's going down to 35. If they had that, it might help those who aren't aware of the curve to slow
the only
down.
little thing I know we might could do is put the flashing curve ahead sign up, because there's a bad curve on Courthouse. So once I incorporated part of that through the redistricting, there's just one curve there's consistently wrecks on. And there's really nothing we can do with the road. It's always been that way. You can't hardly put another curve sign on that curve or curve ahead. So it is marked very good, but people still continue to take it too fast. So we've ordered some flashing curve ahead signs, and I don't know if that'll do anything else. That might
I
be
think it's
another
worth a try.
option.
It's an inexpensive way to address it, and maybe go ahead and put the hazardous curve ahead, 35 miles an hour.
But I think they're about 3,000, 3,500 a piece. So if you want to go ahead and approve one or two more, I'm okay with it.
I would suggest we do it. So what I saw,
If that was a form of emotion, I'm good.
it's probably got to be on the next agenda, but what I saw in that video, it just, we don't know that there may be several that we just don't know about. They didn't
Mhm.
result in accidents
Mhm.
because
There's others
Yeah.
out there, but yeah, I mean, with the speed limit sign, I definitely agree with that. We could
Everybody
try
good
it.
with that? If we move forward with a 35 and maybe a flashing sign, whatever the sheriff would agree. All right, then, do we need to
We'll
get
do that
that?
simultaneously for next month. That's
Yeah.
easily,
Yep.
that's easily done.
Sounds
Okay.
good. Appreciate it. All right.
Just a couple things. The railroad track by Grace on Goshen. They just redid that thing and it is horrific.
That's one, that's Norfolk Southern. So they did the work on that one, right?
Uh,
Yeah.
It's,
And
it's,
The launching pad.
It'd tear the
It's like
undercarriage out.
driving over logs.
Yeah.
And
it's bad.
and we're trying to find out whether they're complete, whatever they're doing
I was
on there.
wondering. I
Or,
hope they're not complete. but-
yeah, but we weren't even told in advance. I think we were told, the sheriff's office was informed a day in advance that they were going to be closing down the road in order to do that work. So we weren't given much of a heads up of much as to what the work was. So we'll follow up. I think Mark's got the phone number of the person now out at Norfolk Southern, and we'll find out if the work is complete, and if it's not, to please revisit it.
The other thing, I know Chance, I spoke with Chance today. He's getting some figures together. He gave you some figures, I think.
Yeah, he gave me, I reached out to him, I think last week or something to that effect, and he gave me some figures. And then we are.
For shared cost.
What?
He wants to do 50-50 shared cost on
Correct.
getting the traffic off of Hodgeville completely.
Right.
And I mentioned it before, it will get every cement truck off Hodgeville, and we'll get approximately 70 to 80 a day right now that hits it. So by doing this, I don't know how we'll fund that, for suggestions.
That's the trick part.
There's another part of it, he's getting the other cost on, I think, on the Zipper property as well. But Mr. Zipper has also agreed to even close his driveway to trucks on Hodgeville as well. So divert all that traffic straight to the parkway. But I'm just looking around 2.3 for the road itself. That'd be our share. Whole thing 4.6. And he's gonna get me some more figures on that. So hopefully we can talk more on that. The reason why I called him today was they'd started some clearing, I guess, at the Christmas tree farm right there.
Mhm.
And it basically made a dirt road on the road. So I asked him if he could put a shaker box or something there. So there were
Okay.
some rocks. So he's gonna do that. He's gonna take care of that. That's all I got.
Anything else? Mr. Loper?
Good.
Okay. I don't have anything tonight. Is there a need for executive session?
Nope.
All right. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
Make motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Burdette to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. We stay in adjournment.